We're moving forward now on to the next subject. Can I get some water?
Yeah.
We're now moving on to the next subject, inshallah. And this is a big subject, and this is the subject of riba. Now, this discussion, inshallah ta'ala, I think it probably will take 2 sessions, to be honest with you. One, there is just too much to discuss. If we try to do all of it in one go, we might get confused, okay? Or we'll miss things. So I want to take it slowly. We'll see what happens here. We'll see what we can do within the hour. But the topic is big. The instructions for the prohibition of riba or interest or usury, they come on page 47 or ayah number 275 in Surah Al-Baqarah. It's the whole page. So we'll go through the page in just give an overview, and then we'll break down the details. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the opening verse, He says, الَّذِينَ يَأْكُلُونَ الرِّبَا لَا يَقُومُونَ إِلَّا كَمَا يَقُومُ الَّذِي يَتَخَبَّطُ الشَّيْطَانُ مِنَ الْمَسِّ ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُمْ قَالُوا إِنَّمَا الْبَيْعُ مِثْلُ الرِّبَا وَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَا فَمَنْ جَاءَهُ مَوْعِظَةٌ مِّن رَّبِّهِ فَانْتَهَى فَلَهُ مَا سَلَفَ وَأَمْرُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَمَنْ عَادَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ أَصْحَابُ النَّارِ هُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. So this is the opening ayah. So what we want to look at, some of the words, key words. The first key word we'll look at is الَّذِينَ يَأْكُلُونَ الرِّبَا. What does the word actual riba mean? From a linguistic point of view, linguistic perspective, it means a ziyada. It means an extra. So riba just means something that grows or something that becomes more. Okay, so linguistically it means a ziyada. But in the shara, in our field, what does it mean? زيادة يأخذها المقرض من المستقرض مقابل الأجر. So what riba means in the specific sites, it is the extra. So we said linguistically means extra. So it is the extra that is taken from the lender, the one who gives the loan, from the one who requests the loan due to a time. Okay, over a period of time, مقابل الأجل, for a period of time. So somebody borrows, this is the riba and the qard. Somebody borrows £100 from someone, and the person who he gets the lender, he says, I will give you £100, and he says, I'll pay you back in a week. You say, okay, fine. And because you're going to take a week to pay, let's make that 150. Okay. So this is the essence of riba, that you are taking extra with a delay in time. Now, the next thing, going word by word. الذين يأكلون الربا لا يقومون إلا كما يقوم الذي يتخبط الشيطان من المس. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says that those people who indulged in the riba in this world, يوم القيامة, when they will stand, لا يقومون, they will not stand إلا except كما يقوم الذي, except they will stand يتخبط الشيطان من المس. يتخبط, this word, it means ضرب, that the shaitan will afflict them or will hit them من المس. المس is al-junun, craziness. So on that day, when everyone will stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the person who consumed riba, then he will be standing in front of Allah as if he is a crazy person, a mad person. He's been hit with something, he's been afflicted with something, he's lost his mind. So he will be behaving in a crazy way. ذَلِكَ, and that is بِأَنَّهُمْ قَالُوا, the reason why they will be afflicted with this punishment is because they said, إِنَّمَا الْبَيْعُ, verily, bay', buying and selling, مِثْلُ riba. It's the same thing as riba. They said, what's the difference? They're both the same. So their justification for using riba was that it's the same as trade, buying and selling. Whereas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made a clear distinction that buying and selling is something else and doing riba transactions is something else. What is the primary difference between buying and selling and riba? If I want to sell this bottle of water, okay, I buy it for a certain price and I sell it for a certain price. I sell it for a certain price higher than I bought it, of course, and I make a profit. There's an item involved and a profit was made. This is buying and selling. If I give you £100 and you say to me, I'll pay you back in a week's time, I take £150 from you, did I give you anything? Did I sell you anything? I made £50 for what? For nothing. That's what I made £50 for nothing. So that £50 was made out of nothing. And what that £50 does, it makes the lender it puts him in a strengthened position, and it puts the one who's borrowing in a weaker position. Okay, so this is the essence of riba in qurud, in lending. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made a clear distinction that buying and selling and riba-based transactions are two very completely different things. Whereas those who use riba, yawm al-qiyamah, they will say, what's the difference? It's the same. Okay, they were the same. فمن جاءه موعظة من ربه, as for those the reminder came to them من ربه فانتهى فله ما سلف وأمره إلى الله. ومن عاد فأولئك أصحاب النار, as for those who were warned, they were given this موعظة, this reminder من ربه from his Lord, فانتهوا, that stop these interest-based transactions. فمن عاد فأولئك, as for those who return back to dealing in interest, فأولئك أصحاب النار, Allah said they are the dwellers or the inhabitants of the nar, هم فيها خالدون, and they will be in the fire for eternity. Then Allah continues, يمحق الله الربا ويربي الصدقات والله لا يحب كل كفار أثيم. Now يمحق, this word, what does يمحق mean? It means النقص or dhihab. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Allah يمحق, that Allah will reduce or diminish يمحق الله الربا. Those who deal in interest-based transactions, they may think that they're earning and they're being successful and they're growing in their businesses, but Allah says it's actually diminishing the money. It's going to reduce it. So something will come along where their money will fall or the money will drop. A good example of that we can see is how certain economies are based upon interest. At one point they were booming because they were all based on interest-based transactions. When the economy went down, it goes collapse. You know, not one thing falls, but everything collapses because it was all based on borrowed money, money that doesn't exist. So Allah says, Allah yamhaqullahu riba, and then says, وَيُرْبِ الصَّدَقَاتِ, whereas those who give sadaqah, their wealth will grow. Meaning, what's the context? If somebody wants to borrow money from you, somebody wants to borrow money, naturally the person who wants to borrow money, is he financially strong or weak? He's financially weak, that's why he's asking for money. And the lender, is he financially strong or is he financially weak?
Strong.
He's strong. So Allah says, instead of taking advantage of that person's weakness, rather do sadaqah and give them the money. Lend them the money for equal amount, and if they're unable to pay it back, and if you're able to, forgive them of that amount. Okay, don't take extra from them. Allah says, وَيَمْحَقُ اللَّهُ الرِّبَى وَيُرْبِي الصَّدَقَاتِ, that if those people who deal in interest, their wealth will diminish. وَيُرْبِي الصَّدَقَاتِ, and those who give out for the sake of Allah or forgive people of their debts, Allah says, as a sadaqah, Allah will increase your wealth. You will get more wealth. وَاللَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ كُلَّ كَفَّارٍ أَثِيمٍ, and Allah does not like those who transgress. In the following verse, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَأَقَامُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ لَهُمْ أَجْرُهُمْ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ وَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. Okay, so then the verses continue. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, Allah says, O you who believe, آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَذَرُوا مَا بَقِيَ مِنَ الرِّبَى إِن كُنتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. Allah says, O you who believe, وَذَرُوا, this is the final instruction. Even the instruction of riba, how many phases, somebody take a guess, that riba was made haram? In how many phases in the Sharia did instructions come talking about riba, and then finally this ayah came down and it was made 100% haram? More, it was very similar to alcohol. 4 stages. 4 stages, just like alcohol. Alcohol was made haram in 4 separate stages. Every single time an instruction came, confining the usage of alcohol, confining to the point where the people were ready, now we made it haram. The very last instruction that was given to the Ummah of Muhammad ﷺ was the prohibition of riba, interest. Why? Because Medina was a community where people used to thrive off interest-based transactions. People used to borrow and lend money, and they were used to get rich by that. 2 of the people in our country at the moment that were well known for, and this is when it was permissible, for giving people loans and becoming super rich because of the interest-based transactions. Anybody know who they were? The uncle of the Prophet and Khalid bin Walid. Yeah, they used to lend money and they used to get interest back. So when the final instruction came, and this came at the Khutbah al-Wada', on the final sermon, the Khutbah of the Prophet, you can read it there. The Prophet, he said that today riba has been made haram. He made, that was the final instruction. Today riba has been made haram, and instead we will start min bayti ammi Abbas. We will start with my uncle Abbas. He said, anybody who owes my uncle money, pay him the capital and do not pay the riba on the loan. So he started off making riba haram, and where did he start? By himself, with his uncle. So this shows us once again, when it comes to preaching, practice what you preach. Right? So he made something haram and he started with himself and his uncle and said no more interest-based transactions. Okay, that was a side way. Okay. Furthermore, فَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا, and if you don't give up your interest-based actions, فَأْذَنُوا بِحَرْبٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ, وَإِن تُبْتُمْ فَلَكُمْ رُؤُوسُ أَمْوَالِكُمْ لَا تَظْلِمُونَ وَلَا تُظْلَمُونَ. Allah says, and if you go back to وَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا, if you do not give up riba, فَأْذَنُوا بِحَرْبٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. Subhanallah, out of all the prohibitions that we find in the Quran, this is the one prohibition where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the punishment, He says, in that case, if you want to continue dealing with interest, after I have said to you that it is haram, then get ready. Get ready for what? حرب من الله ورسوله, that you are at war with Allah and His Messenger. And Ibn Abbas, I think, if I'm correct, Ibn Abbas, he said that on the day of Yom al-Qiyamah, when this person will stand, Allah will give him a weapon, give him a sword, and say, okay, fight. Literally saying that on that day you will have to fight Allah. Obviously, meaning you've got no chance, you're not going to do anything. But just to show you that this is how strong the warning is for riba. Okay, the most sterning of warnings comes from the issue of take riba. وَإِن تُبْتُمْ فَلَكُمْ رُؤُوسُ أَمْوَالِكُمْ. And Allah says, and if you made tawbah, you give up your interest-based transactions, فَلَكُمْ رُؤُوسُ أَمْوَالِكُم. Then you take your capital. That which you have lent, you just take that. Do not take anything extra from that. لَا تَظْلِمُونَ وَلَا تُظْلَمُونَ. Do not oppress others and do not become oppressed. Okay. Then in the final part, وَإِن كُنتُمْ ذُو عُسْرَةٍ فَنَذِرَةٌ إِلَى مَيْسَرَةٍ وَأَن تَصَدَّقُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ إِن كُنتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. Finally, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِن كَانَ ذُو عُسْرَةٍ, that if a person is in difficulty, okay, he's borrowed money and he's in difficulty, فَنَذِرَةٌ إِلَى مَيْسَرَةٍ, then give that person some time to pay you back. Okay, he's already in a debt and he's got a loan and he's struggling, then be generous and just give him some a bit more flexibility so that he can pay you back. وَأَن تَصَدَّقُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. And if the person is really struggling and you know he's not able to pay, أَن تَصَدَّقُوا, that you just forgive him. You say, look, it's okay, just whatever's remaining, keep it for the sake of Allah. You don't need to pay me back. Allah says, هَذَا وَأَن تَصَدَّقُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ إِن كُنتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ, if you really understood. And the final verse of this page, verse number 271, وَاتَّقُوا يَوْمًا تُرْجَعُونَ فِيهِ إِلَى اللَّهِ ثُمَّ تُوَفَّى كُلُّ نَفْسٍ مَا كَسَبَتْ وَهُمْ لَا يُظْلَمُونَ. Make a note, this verse 271 is the last verse to be revealed in the Quran. Okay, the last verse to be revealed in the Quran. وَاتَّقُوا يَوْمًا, Allah says, and fear that day, تُرْجَعُونَ فِيهِ إِلَى اللَّهِ, that you will return back to Allah. ثُمَّ تُوَفَّى كُلُّ نَفْسٍ, every single soul is going to die. مَا كَسَبَتْ وَهُمْ لَا يُظْلَمُونَ, and you will be rewarded for what you have earned. So if you did good, you will get the good of that. If you did evil, you will get the good of that. وَهُمْ لَا يُظْلَمُونَ, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not do wrong, will not oppress any single person. Okay? So subhanAllah, after talking about all the warnings and the seriousness of riba, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala concludes this prohibition by reminding us of what? Yawm al-Qiyamah. Reminding us of what? That you will be punished or rewarding to your actions. Okay? So this is the general summary of this page. Okay, general summary of this page. Everyone with me so far? Yeah?
You said that is the last verse. Some people also have the opinion that the verse that Allah says that
so there is ikhtilaf. So some of the scholars will say it's this verse, but the scholars agree that the final verse is وَاتَّقُوا يَوْمًا تُرْجَعُونَ فِيهِ إِلَى اللَّهِ. This is the actual last verse that was revealed, but some have the contention, and that's why it's commonly known that that's also one of the last verses to have been revealed. Yeah. Okay, Sabab al-Nuzul, one of the reasons why this verse was revealed, كان العباس, the uncle of the Prophet, وخالد بن وليد شريكين, they were partners in business في الجاهلية يصرفون في الربا إلى الناس. They used to give out people money and they used to live off the interest that used to come back. فجاء الإسلام ولهم أموال عظيمة في الربا. When Islam came, they had a lot of money out there amongst the people and they were living off the interest that people had. فأنزل الله هذه الآية. Then Allah revealed this ayah because of the amount of wealth they were earning or making from this, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He prohibited the consumption of riba. Okay, so it started from those two. Okay. Also, when we find at the top of the verse, الَّذِينَ يَأْكُلُونَ الرِّبَى, the word يَأْكُل means to eat. Okay, now here eat, is that literal or metaphorical? It's metaphorical, you don't physically eat riba. So what does it mean when Allah is saying يَأْكُلُونَ الرِّبَى, they eat riba? What does it mean?
take. Really.
Good. They give and take. Yeah, that's what it means by yakulun. Eating, they give and take. Yeah, they give and take riba. Okay. Okay. All right, let's have a look now. So we said that the stages in which riba was made haram. There are 4 stages in which the riba was made haram. The first stage in the ayah, ما آتيتم من الربا ليربو في الأموال الناس فلا يربو عند الله وما آتيتم من زكاة تريدون وجه الله فأولئك هم المضاعفون. I'm not sure what ayah that is, what surah that is, but you can check that. So that was the first ayah in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about riba, and it wasn't prohibited, but it was made mention that it's a negative thing, it's a harmful thing, stay away from it, but it wasn't made haram. And then in stage 2, okay, in the second stage, فبظلم من الذين هادوا حرمنا عليهم طيبات أحلت لهم وبصدهم عن سبيل الله كثيرا. So the other verse, I forgot to mention the ayat, the surah, but in the other verse Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala once again he makes mention of riba a second time and shows the harm and the dangers of riba, and then there's a third, and this is what we're talking about now. The ayah we have now is the 4th and final stage in which the riba was made haram. Okay, good. Now what we have to do now is, subhanAllah, things get a bit complicated now. So riba is there are 2 concepts to riba. The first part of riba is the fact that you have riba in buying and selling, and you have riba in lending. Okay. When it comes to riba al-qurud, in loans, this is straightforward. We're not concerned about what it is that is being lent. It could be money, it could be gold, it could be items. But the qaida, the principle, which we need to understand, how we identify that there's riba in this loan, is that it's a qard jar'an naf'an, that it's a loan, and the loan has some kind of benefit inside it for the lender. So, for example, if somebody lends, so person A lends person B money, and because of that loan, he increases the total amount by £50. What did the lender benefit? How much? Easy question. £50. So this is a loan with a benefit. Okay, this is known as riba. So what if, for example, somebody says, okay, look, I lend you £100. Give it back to me after a week. During that week, I want you to come and wash my car twice. Okay, what do you think of that?
Depends. If it was customs before,
okay,
they were doing that before, then it's not real. But if it's a request based on the loan, that means he's benefiting. He's getting back his £100 plus. He's getting the car washed every day.
Exactly. So this is the point. That here, I purposely use this example because here the benefit he's getting is not money, he's getting a service. Even that could be riba. Okay? Because you lend someone money, you get something in return. Okay? This is also considered riba. So the riba could come from actual money, or it can come from a service. What they call in Arabic is manfa'a, any kind of benefit. So when you lend someone money, all you should have in your mind is the money coming back, nothing else. There should be nothing added to it. Okay? This is a pure loan. When you start adding money to it or services to it, it becomes a riba loan. So this is clear cut. Okay? And this could happen with anything, not just money, any kind of loan that you give out, it could carry the same thing. So this is with loans. Now when it comes to buying and selling, so you need pens here and take good notes because things are going to get a bit more complicated. Okay. ما يجري فيه الربا. What items is riba in? There are 3 types of items that we have in buying. We have riba. The first of those is al-makilat. Okay, the first is al-makil. What is makil? Al-makil in the English translation is things that are bought and sold in volume. Okay, so when you buy this bottle of water, it's sold to me as a volume, 500 ml. Okay, so anything that's bought and sold in volume. Okay, so that's the first thing. Stay with me. I know this is going to get more complicated, but just stay with me. So the first thing is makilat, those things that are sold in volume. The second is al-mawzunat. Mawzunat come from wazn, things that are sold by weight. Okay, so if you go get a kilo of sugar, If you go get any item, wheat, yeah. So you buy wheat in weight, okay, or whatever the item is, or dates, tamar. Okay, I don't know if what's dates, mawzoon or makilat, but things that are bought and sold in weight. The third item that carries riba in it is an-nuqud, gold and silver. Okay, gold and silver. The details of this ayah that we've just taken, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He talks about riba, is a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam where he said, الذهب بالذهب والفضة بالفضة والبر بالبر والشعير بالشعير والتمر بالتمر والملح بالملح والفضة بالفضة يد بيد فمن زاد واستزاد فقد أربى. That the Prophet mentioned 6 items in this hadith, and in these 6 items he mentioned gold and silver being amongst them. He talked about bur. Bur is wheat, barley. Okay, so bur is barley. He talked about sha'ir. Sha'ir or sha'ir? That's barley, no? Yeah, so one of them is wheat and one is barley. Tamar is dates. Milh is salt. Okay, so the Prophet mentioned all these items, and these items are all sold either by weight or by volume. Everybody with me so far? Yeah? Okay. So, let's look at the first one, makilat, things that are sold by volume. So, during the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ, dates were sold by volume, not by weight. Now they're sold by weight, a kilo of this, a kilo of that. But before they used to be sold by volume. So there used to be a bag, and you say, look, fill up this bag for me, 50, whatever it was, dinar. This bag, 3 dinar. They didn't look at the weight, they looked at the volume. So makila, take the example of tamar. So we have 2 options here. إذا بئت مكيل بمكيل. If, for example, somebody had makil, so a certain volume of dates, and they wanted to sell this with another person who has dates. So 2 people are going to sell dates to each other. Okay, you might think, why would 2 people want to sell dates to each other? What if I've got Ajwad and he's got the sukari dates, the ones with sugar on them, and I want a bit of his, he wants a bit of mine. So we sell it to each other. What's the condition in order for this contract to take place? Yeah? So, make note. If you've got a question, ask, otherwise you will fall behind. What was the question? That's okay? Alright. So the first thing is, we're looking at volume first, makil. So number 1, makil. Inside makil, if we want to sell a makil with a makil, so something that has volume with something that has volume, and they're both from the same jins. Jins means the same category. So both are dates. We're not concerned with what type, but they're both dates. That's what we're concerned with. What are the 2 conditions in order for this contract to be valid without there being any riba? 2 conditions. The first is at-taqabud. Taqabud means they have to be exchanged there and then. No delay in the exchange. You can't say, here, take mine bag, you take back, and I'll give you your one in a week's time. No, that's not allowed. It has to be done there and then. Also, the second condition is at-tamathul. Tamathul means the same amount. So if I've got ajwa dates, and you've got the Saudi, the sugar ones, and we say, look, I've got this amount, we've both got the same keel, so let's say 500 ml, okay, you got 500 ml, we exchange it. We have to do it at the same time, and it has to be 500 ml, okay, irrespective whether mine is ajwa or your one is whatever date, yeah, it doesn't matter, but we have to do it at the same time, those 2 conditions. So what are the 2 conditions? It's going to keep coming up. The first one is?
There and then. It has to be there.
There and then. In Arabic they call it taqabud, so there and then. And the second is?
It has to be of the same volume.
The same volume. Very good. If not, and you drop, example, and you drop one of those 2 conditions, this becomes a ribawi transaction. Okay, it becomes a ribawi transaction. And subhanAllah, look how tight Islam is. Huh? The Sharia closed all the doors for someone possibly to come and do riba. Okay, let's have a look at a second option now. Let's say if we're still inside makil, so that was the first option we took. The second option is if somebody wants to sell a makil, so somebody's got dates, and he wants to sell it in exchange for something else that is also sold by weight, but it's not the same genre, it's not the same type, it's not the same jins, we say in Arabic. So let's say I've got dates, and you've got raisins. Okay, they're both sold in volumes. Now, what do we do? Okay. So we said that in the first one, when they were both the same dates, we said what were the 2 conditions? There and then, and the volume has to be the same. But now I've got dates and he's got raisins. They're both sold by volume. In this situation, we only need one of those conditions. And what are those one conditions? What do you think? Which one?
There and then.
There and then. They can't be the same volume because one's expensive and one's cheap. So they have to be the same. They have to be there and then. That's the only condition you need to fulfill. Third type, we're still in Makir. Now I've got dates and Brov's got money. He's got a bag of gold or he's got dollars in his pocket, whatever he has. Okay, he wants to come and buy those dates of me. What are the conditions now that we have to fulfill? From those two conditions, which, if any, do we need?
There and then.
They combine
They have to be the same volume, isn't it?
So you're going to give me the same volume of gold for the same volume of dates?
No, you don't have to fulfill none of those conditions.
Very good, well done.
Combine advances.
Very good. Why? Because the money, you don't buy and sell money by volume. Okay? So it falls out of the category. So when you're using gold and silver or actual pounds or sterling to buy stuff, that condition doesn't apply. So I can buy dates of you and say, give me this packet of dates, I'll pay you tomorrow. No problem. Okay? I can buy any amount of dates I want from you, no problem. Okay? So remember the 3 stages. If they're the same category, dates for dates, then it has to be there and then, and it has to be the same amount. If they're both makil, they're both done by weight, but 2 different things. Yeah? One's date, one's raisins, then it has to be done there and then, but the weighting can be different. If the one is done by makil and the other one is not done by volume, it's done by something completely else, then there's nothing. You can do it as you like. This is what we do every day.
But they'll have to agree on the price.
That's a different thing. Yeah, that's not riba, that's bay. That you agree on the price of the item that you're buying and selling. Okay? So those are the conditions. Is that clear? Okay. Next step. So we then makil, volume. The next one we said is mawzun. Things that are sold by weight. Okay? One item that was sold during the lifetime of the Prophet by weight was lahm, meat. Okay? So let's use meat as an example. Same theory, same concept. Stay with me. Same principles. You just got to focus. Now, if I sell something which is sold by weight, so I got meat, I got lahm. The brother's got lahm. Okay? I got, let's say, back. Yeah, I got the back of the cow. He's got the leg. I want some leg, he wants some back. So we want to exchange some. In this case, we've both got something that's sold by wazn, by weight, and we've both got the same entity, same item, which is meat. Okay? So the 2 conditions apply. What are the 2 conditions again?
Yeah, and then same weight.
Very good. It has to be done there and then, and it has to be the same weight. Irrespective whether he's got shoulder, leg, or back, it doesn't matter. We have to do it at the same time. Is that clear? Okay, next step. What if we both have something that's sold by weight, but they're different? So I've got lahm, I've got the lahm, and let's say you've got what's sold by weight. He's got metal. Yeah? He's got some aluminium. He sells metal. In this case, metal is sold by weight, right? What condition applies in this scenario? Here, there and then. It has to be exchanged at the same time. Obviously, you can't expect there to be the same weight if I'm selling meat and he's selling metal. But what has to be done is there and then. Yeah? And let's say the third scenario, the same as what we took before. Now I'm selling something that's sold by weight, but I'm going to buy it you're going to buy it from me with money. Now, is money sold by weight? It's not. Okay? Therefore, does any condition apply? No. You can buy meat, for example, you can buy it today, you can buy it tomorrow, you can buy it on loan, you can buy it in advance, no problem. Okay, because the 2 things are not the same. Yeah, they're not mizan, the weight wasn't. Are you with me so far? Okay. The third thing and the final thing is that of naqd. Naqd is al-dhahab wal-fidda, gold and silver. If you sell with gold and silver, so we've got gold. I've got some gold and the brother's got some gold. So I've got some Pakistani gold, he's got some African gold. Then we want to swap. His wife likes Pakistani gold, my wife likes African gold. Then we want to swap. What are the conditions? Go back to the same principles. So, do we both have gold?
Yes.
Yes. So
The carrot can be different though.
Come to that in a second. So if we didn't go by gold, so we've got the same entity, and gold generally is sold by, when you buy gold, who buys gold for their wife? Expose yourselves, come on. When you buy gold, when you go to the shop, how do they price gold? Weight. Very good. Yeah, that's what's trying to weight. Yeah. So you have to have the conditions apply. When you're dealing in gold and silver, what two things apply. They have to be the same weight, and it has to be done there and then. Okay, there and then. Okay, good. It has to be done there and then. What if, for example, we have a difference now? So I've got gold and you've got silver. I want some of your silver, you want my gold. Are they the same jins? Are they the same thing?
No, they're not.
No, they're not. So which one of the two conditions only apply? There and then. Very good. Okay, there and then. And finally, let's say that you've got gold and I want to buy that gold with money, paper money. Okay, in this case, what condition applies? None of them. None of them. Very good. Okay, so none of those two apply. Okay, good.
So, question, because you just said gold is a weighted item, just like metal. But then in the example where you're trading aluminium for me, you had the condition of there and then. Equivocally, in weigh the gold and exchange it for me, and then you need the condition of the trade to exist there and then. But before that, you said that condition falls off because you're buying meat or gold. Is my question making sense?
Okay. So what he's saying is that lahm is sold by weight and gold and silver is also done by weight. Yeah. Okay, good question. We'll come back to that. Okay. So let us continue. You got something?
No, I think what he's saying, I think at that time they didn't have paperweight, so then nuqud was silver and gold.
Yeah.
So that's what they used to use. So
Exactly. Even though it was done by weight, the gold and silver is, now we buy and sell gold and silver by weight, but it was a currency
it
for
was a
them.
currency at that
Yeah,
time.
it was a way of monitoring the value of items. Okay. All right, good. So the next thing we need to understand is that this is the hadith that we really work off from. Okay. Now we need to apply it in the modern context. How do we apply that today? How do we extrapolate from that hadith to modern day context? Now, how do we understand riba in transactions? Here it gets a bit tricky. There is ikhtilaf, a big difference amongst the scholars on how the reasons to why these specific items were made ribawi. Putting the gold and silver aside for a second. The four positions, the main positions when it comes to this, number one is the position of the Zahiriyah, Ibn Hazm. Okay, Ibn Hazm was a great scholar in Andalus. He is known as the Zahiriyah. He is known for taking from the apparent. Okay, he didn't like to delve into like qiyas, analogy, and things like that. He just said, look, that's what it says, that's what we take. So he said that riba is confined to these 6 items that are mentioned inside the hadith: gold, silver, salt, barley, and wheat, just these items, and we cannot extrapolate, just leave it there. If you do that, then life becomes very easy, okay, because then it doesn't affect anything that we buy and sell of today, except for those specific items. That was his position. The next position was the position of the Hanabila and the Hanafiya. They said that no, the reason to why these things were made ribawi is because of anything that is sold with makil or with mawzun. Anything that is sold in volume or sold in weight, the same thing applies. So today, what do we buy in volume and what do we buy in weight?
Almost everything.
Almost everything. So it would apply the same thing. So for example, water. So if we take the opinion of the Hanabila and we take the opinion of the Hanafis, let's say I've got aqua water and you've got Evian water. We want to swap. We have to apply this. We have to do it the same amount and it has to be done at that same time. If we follow the opinion of the Hanabila and the Hanafiya, if we go with Ibn Hazm, everything is gone. So there's nothing to worry about. Yeah? You got a question? Oh, okay. I thought you were raising your hand. Okay.
I was wondering, as you were saying, the Evian and the Movic, you take them to 2 different waters, but one water costs 50p and the other one costs £1. What happens then?
Yeah, so in that case, if we wanted to sell, we exchange, we have to make sure that the amount is the same. So the 500 ml, and we do it there and then. Okay, and we just exchange.
Well, but the price is different though, because if you go to the shop now and you get the Evian, it will cost you £1. If you get another bottle of water, it will cost you 50p.
Yeah, so but that's true. So if you've got the Evian and I've got the little one, I'll be better off because I get the Evian and you get the little. Okay, so but that's the ahkam. This is the principle. So the avoiding of the rising in prices of these items. The third position is the position of another opinion of Imam Ahmad. Imam Ahmad, he said that it applies to anything that is sold by weight and volume from amongst food items only. Okay, from food items only. So, for example, apples, bananas, vegetables, wheat, only food items. Whereas the first opinion was much more inclusive. So, let's say metals, yeah, the steel industry. If that applies, then all that has to apply on the steel industry and the wood industry and everything that's sold. So that the first opinion is very wide. Okay, so riba will apply on all of those. The second one confines it a bit further, and this says that it is only on food items that are sold in volume and sold in weight. Then another problem arises, and this is why there's so many different scholars. They say, okay, but Allah also mentioned al-dhahab al-fidda. Al-dhahab al-fidda, gold and silver, is not a food item. So now, what do we do? So this is where there was. So some of them said no, that the gold and silver is an exception to the rule. That has its own ruling. But then, if you understand the issue of qiyas, you can't have exceptions to qiyas. It has to be universal. So that's where they had difference with that as well. And then finally, the fourth opinion, the opinion of Imam Malik, rahimahullah, he said that it only applies to food items which are storable food items. So things that you can, you can keep them in your cupboards for a long time. So what kind of food do you keep in your cupboard?
And stuff like that. Beans, tuna.
There we go. Okay, not about tuna, but beans and lentils, yeah,
sugar and stuff like
things
that.
like that. Yeah, so things that can be kept in bags for a long time. So Imam Malik, he said on those items. Okay, so that was what's the right opinion? Allahu Alam. There is big ikhtilaf on this issue. What's more relevant, I think, what's good to focus on, is the following discussion. I'm going to keep it brief. I don't want to go into it too much, but the following discussion. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned dhahab wal fidda in the hadith. At that time, the Prophet ﷺ, they used to use gold and silver to buy and sell. That was their form of transaction. That's what they used to use. Gold and silver, in and of itself, does it have a value? It has a value, right? Hence, something that has an independent value, it has a value by weight, and it's used and recognized by the people. It becomes an item, they call it a thaman, something that you can assess the price of something with. So this will have the equivalent of gold value, whatever it is. So gold has been like that, and gold and silver are the two commodities that are from the beginning of time. I don't know when it happened, but when it was recognized as something of value, up until the end of time, it will have a value. So if you have a piece of gold, no matter where you are, no matter what century you're in, it will have a value. You can take it to a shop or to a person, you can buy and sell, and it's accepted. Okay? Hence there is riba on it, and there is zakat paid on that as well, because they're commodities. Next question arises, those of you who are students of economics, okay, that as time moved forward and it became difficult to carry large amounts of gold with you, and not everyone had access to gold, what did people start to do? People started to write on bits of paper. So if I bought something for you with 50 gold coins, and I'm not carrying the 50 gold coins, they're too heavy, it's in my house. I'll say to you, brother, I'll get a piece of paper or something, I'll write on it, I owe you 50 gold coins, piece of paper, I'll say, here's the piece of paper, take that, and when you go home, my brother's there, just give it to me, he'll give you the gold coins. So people now started to carry what? They started to carry checks, yeah, paper, that didn't have value in and of itself, but the value of that paper was linked to the gold. Are you with me? Yeah? Are you following me? So they started to carry these bits of paper, and those value of that piece of paper, in and of itself, that paper was nothing, it didn't mean anything, but it was linked to the gold that was sitting on my house. Then what started happening is people started to exchange these bits of paper. So Kalim's got 50, his paper says go collect 50 from Abdullah. Abdullah's got a piece of paper which says go collect 50 from from Zayd. So they started to exchange papers. Said, look, I can't be bothered. I have to go all the way over there, pick that up, and then pick that up. Why don't you just take this? We solve our debt, and you can just go pick it up. So now people started to exchange what? Bits of paper. Yeah, bits of paper started floating around, and gold started to become kept at home. Then slowly what started to happen was gold now needed to be looked after, because people had gold at home and people were using bits of paper. What institution came about? Banks. Okay, and this is all legit so far. There's people, like places, started storing gold and giving out bits of paper. They said, look, if you need the gold, just come here, give me the paper, and I'll give you the same amount of gold back. And they'll give it back. Hence, if you've got money on you, if you look at the money you have now, it says on there, on the top of the note, that this paper bears the value of blah blah blah. Meaning that theoretically, you could take that £10 note to the bank and they'll give you £10 worth of gold in return. But we know that doesn't happen anymore. It doesn't take place. Anyway, cutting a long story short, is that then the concept of currency and paper money, it started to rise, and people started to use currency. So they started having checks, IOU, and started signing checks, and then these checks were so universal that people started to interchange them, and then we had paper currency. Now, the problem with paper currency today, this is a lot of fuqaha, there was a big difference before, now pretty much it's resolved, but paper money itself, if I got a £50 note,